Ever tried reading while jogging, cooking, or even juggling flaming torches? Yeah, it doesn't end well. But with audiobooks.com, you can conquer books without the circus act. Dive into over 450,000 titles, including more than 10,000 free ones. Get hooked on a bestseller, find your next obsession, or finally read that classic you've been avoiding since high school. And here's the inside scoop. Sign up today for a free 30-day trial and snag your first 3 audiobooks on the house. Sign up for your free trial at audiobooks.com/podcastfree today. That's audiobooks.com/podcastfree.
Okay, this is a 30-second commercial, and I'm going to throw a lot of numbers at you, but please stay with me. In just 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more on car insurance. This company has been offering great rates and great service for over 75 years, and anytime you need help, you can speak to one of their trained specialists 24/7. The company is Geico. Go to geico.com today. Sorry for all the numbers, and in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm out of time.
Now, Podcast One brings you Spike's Car Radio, a downloadable cars and coffee, hosted by writer, comedian, and automotive enthusiast, Spike Ferriston. Now, here's Spike.
All right, everybody, welcome to Spike's Car Radio. Here in Beverly Hills with the real Zuckerman, waiting for our guest, Jonathan Ward. You know Jonathan Ward, Zuck?
I do not know him personally. I know of his operation.
Icon 4x4. He's the FJ guy.
Well, and he's branched out, right?
Yeah, he's doing derelicts and all sorts of other things. Did he also have just an FJ restoration shop in the beginning? Were they TLC?
I can't answer that, but I think that there was an outgrowth of something more pedestrian than Icon.
An outgrowth.
An outgrowth, like a what or a zit? A skin tag.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I have not. We're pushing hard to get John Cena to come in here. I don't know where that is at, but I think that's the next natural progression of our lawsuit chat about John Cena versus Ford, because I have not been able to track down any confirmation, by the way, that Tom Cruise bought this car yet.
If we have him here and we put him in the hot seat, can we get back Chuck Liddell to be our bodyguard? Because I don't want this guy to hurt either one of us.
I've met John Cena. I went down to my kids, went backstage at the wrestling, and we met John Cena. He seems like a busy actor-y guy more than a dangerous wrestler guy. Does that make sense?
Okay.
He didn't frighten me at all. He seems fairly benign. He seems like a happy-go-lucky guy. And, also a car guy. He has a show on YouTube. He's got like this YouTube car show that's like the wrestling version of a car show.
Sure, and Frankenstein was happy-go-lucky when you played the violin, and when you stopped,
you're just
what
afraid.
happened?
See, you're projecting your personality onto John Cena, I
How
think.
tall are you?
5'10".
And how much do you weigh?
About 155.
Okay, and how tall is he?
I don't know. He's big. 6'1" or 6'2".
And
280.
Okay, so
all muscle.
With a flick of his little finger, your little carcass would fly across the room.
I'm not worried about it. People can answer questions without fighting. They're not like you. Yeah, you're a guy.
I've seen a different world.
You're a guy who fights. Anyway, this morning I woke up to a text from our friend Dean. Dean likes to, I've already erased it here, but I'm sure it's on Jalopnik. But Dean likes to kind of set the hook with us. Dean is a car dealer, sells Porsches.
Also known as a human hunter. He takes scalps.
Yep, and he will suddenly just, in the morning, anytime there's any sort of Porsche news, he wants to sell a car, he'll text myself, you, and Jerry at the same time.
Right.
And this morning, that was the new GT3 RS.
Right, with 520 naturally
Tell me
aspirated
about, did you read the article? I haven't read it yet. What have we learned?
We learned that probably this is going to be what I surmised, because I only glanced at it. It's going to be the last naturally aspirated GT3 RS, and they are going past the former benchmark of 500 horsepower, which is what the 997 GT3 RS 4.0 had. They're blasting past it by 20 horsepower.
Right. So that's it. So you get 20 additional horsepower. Now, you had 2 of these cars. You only have 1. Does this car interest you? There's so much new stuff suddenly happening with Porsche.
Well, this is the Porsche conundrum. They have to figure out what is the balance between satisfying their customers but keeping things exclusive. And I have lost interest in this car because I've gained interest in the R, in the GT3 Touring, and in the GT2 RS.
What about the GT3 Speedster?
Yeah. I mean, there's another one. I really do feel like
there's so much of it, right?
I'm being mugged. They're mugging me.
They call this the first of all, Jalopnik is running this story, but this idea that these pictures are released by mistake. The updated GT3 RS showed up on the internet due to an apparent fuck-up by Australia's Drive. Right. Yes, of course. It was a big mistake that these photos leaked all over the internet. 20 extra horsepower. I don't know, Zuckerman.
What's 20 extra horsepower? It's 4%.
Yeah.
4% more horsepower over 500 horsepower. Will you feel 4%?
No. A little bit. The car will feel different. It'll be novelty for a little while. But I don't know. This is, if you have a GT3 RS already, do you need to go out and get this new one? No. If you miss the opportunity to buy one, yeah.
Have they burned us out? Do you feel burned out today?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always the end of that 9/11 range where all the crazy stuff starts to come out. And this is a big burst of crazy coming out. And, as you and I both know, there's at least one other thing that no one's talking about.
And no one's thought about.
Yet somehow you and I have heard about it. I wonder if our funny friend in New York knows about it. Did we tell him about that?
We have. We're going to see him on Saturday, and we'll have to we'll play his game, which is 20 questions, make you guess. he likes to make you guess. You feel like you're in 5th grade. You want to punch him in the face. Just tell
I
me,
invited
Jerry.
him to do another podcast, and he again just did not respond. I think he's a little jealous that you and I have this thing going on here and that he's in the freezing cold in New York and doesn't get to participate in it.
I think it was obvious from his comment on your post yesterday.
What was that? Oh, he posted. What do you mean? So yesterday,
he's driving my car.
Yesterday, I posted a funny video of you making a goofy face on the PCH. I, by the way, tried to make it look like it wasn't me shooting it while I was driving because I always get in trouble for doing that.
Except you were laughing. I heard your sinister laugh because I was going to do something really stupid and silly for your personal entertainment.
Yes,
and you showed the world.
And I showed the world, right? And I think we're up to 9,000 views this morning.
I can't.
And so Jerry commented on it, and what did he say?
That was my car.
That was my car.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, that's weird.
That's a little.
I think he's a little insecure. Well, he should come. He's got to come back on. We're going to have to force him to come on this week because we have a ton to talk about. He
also is going to make a major acquisition on Friday night at an auction.
He is.
Well,
wow, this will have already gone by, so this has already happened now. People are listening to this after that. But what auction is coming up this Friday?
Art Curiel in Paris.
Oh.
And I shouldn't say major. It's for him. For me, it would be major. For you, it would be major. For him, it's a middling. It's middling major, and it's a really neat acquisition that he's going to make. And of course, when most people
has he checked it out this time?
Okay.
Has he actually done due diligence?
Remember that he's got a pincer attack. On one side is crazy, on the other side is loaded with money. It doesn't matter.
Wow.
He's going to get it.
Wow, I can't wait to find out what this is.
You want me to tell you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you can't tell him. How do you know he wants this information out there? He may not want that out there, so you should be careful.
Okay, I won't say anything.
All right, you tell me off the air. Let's bring Jonathan Ward in. Where is he? He's sitting out there. Come on, Jonathan. You could have walked right in.
Oh, my God, he's dapper, just like his cars.
No need to wait.
Now, I'm curious. I want to know what that car is.
Yeah, we all want to. You're going to find out at the break.
Hey, I'm Paul Zuckerman. How are you?
Saying hello. He's coming in. He's sitting down. How are you? Good to see you again.
You too.
It's been a long time, right, since you came on Car Matchmaker?
Uh-huh.
A huge episode. People, you don't have to wear the headphones if you don't want to.
Kind of silly feeling.
Yeah, claustrophobic.
Much better.
You came on. We did an episode. What did we drive? That Dodge.
Yeah, the Dodge Power Wagon Crew Cab we
Right.
built.
Oh my gosh! And I drove that through Studio City. That was quite an experience.
That's a fun truck.
was a great show, great episode
Good.
of television.
Glad I
Did
like
really
that
well.
guy, the wine merchant dude.
Yeah,
right?
Matthew Kaner was
Yeah,
his
yeah, yeah.
name,
Yeah,
and he
he's a
was
cool
looking
guy.
for a truck, and that's the truck that opened our episode. But I was really impressed by your shop when I went there. And I'll tell you why. Here's the first thing that occurred to me, that this is a real shop. There are lots of guys building cars. You'll go to a lot of places that are, but here you've got all of these cars waiting to be restored and turned into something. There was a schedule up on the wall, so you have a morning, like that place
Right?
was
Like a shop with structure?
A thriving business.
I was talking to Richard Rollins. He does this garage rehab show. And I said, what's the number one thing you tell these garages? It's about, how to make your these mechanics and these garages around the country, make them more efficient and better. He said, the first thing I tell them is clean up the shop.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah, my
and you walk
foreman.
into this place, it's so clean.
And I'm a pig. But my
how did
foreman, we call him Martha Stewart, is this is like totally tatted up Harley roughhouse looking Mexican dude, and he's like a neat freak.
And you have, how many cars do you have waiting outside the work area to be worked on?
Probably 40 or 50 that are in line. But yeah, I mean, since inception with the shop, my whole idea, or one of the ideas, was like to get the mom and pop resto shop out of the Stone Age. Because a lot of just like anything, if you're a creative dude, you suck at business. So I just owned that early on, that I'm the creative guy and I hate spreadsheets and they make my brain hurt.
Right.
But I built a crew, like a master alliance of people with different skill sets so that we could find efficiencies, increase the quality, and to allow the quantity that a ridiculous shop now. We're still pathetically low volume.
Could you get out a car on schedule? That's my biggest pet peeve in a restoration.
The short answer is yes, but the long answer is it takes forever. So there are quicker shops, there are cheaper shops. The waiting period until we get started can be fairly obtuse.
Right.
But we're doing engineering and CAD development and emulation before we even start on it. You know what I mean? So once we actually get rolling on it, we understand the path and where we're going. But if it's a one-off, we build it once digitally, we build it once in raw metal, and then we build it a third time. So not quick.
That's my pet peeve in restoration is that the shops want to underestimate the time because they know that that's what you want to hear going in. Or they think that's what you want to hear going in. Is, we'll have it done in 6 months. I actually want to hear if it's going to be 2 years because they tend to say 1 year, and then when the 1 year mark hits, you call up the guy and you say, "Where's my car?" And he goes, "I didn't know it was going to take this long." And I say, "You've been doing this for 60 years. If you don't know, who knows?"
I'll give you an honest answer, but also with like a standard caveat of this is a one-off. This is an adventure. There are going to be discoveries and unknowns. It's the nature of the beast. But I agree with you. And I hate to say it, but our industry is kind of a poo fest as far as like the accountability, the quality, the over-promising, under-delivering.
Oh, my favorite
and I'm
line.
ashamed of it.
Mm-hmm.
I really am. So, again, I started as that customer and then kind of got pissy about both what I was getting and the sort of ruts or standard classes of builds that people were doing. So I just followed my dream and opened the shop. I mean, I didn't know anything, but I knew what I wanted it to be, and I learned and studied and read and YouTubed and hired until I had that equation. I mean, in every day it's a challenge.
And where are we at now? Like, what is the shop building and restoring? So pitch us on what you do.
What the
For the
hell
people
are
who
we
don't know,
doing?
I know what you do, but there are
So-
lots of Porsche guys listening who may not know about
Yeah.
your shop. And for me, I think my entry point was the FJ Cruisers, right? And did you start TLC? Did you work there back in the day? Or?
Yeah, so my wife and I started TLC back in '96, which was all about sales, service, parts, restoration for Land Cruisers.
Right.
That was it.
TLC, Toyota Land Cruiser.
There you go. You know, it's amazing how
Tender,
few people figure
loving
that one out.
care.
TLC 4X4 is that brand, and it's still around and doing great. And then I kind of got a little bit bored because with TLC, I'd kind of put low ceiling and very, close walls on what the brand was defined for. Mm-hmm. But as a massive geek for design and engineering, after I did the prototype vehicles for what became the FJ Cruiser for Toyota, I found myself like in bed late at night crafting like a 3D rotatable model I could literally see until it was like, okay, either I have to create that or die, like it was killing me. And that was the birth of Icon. So the idea of Icon is vintage transportation design revisited in a modern context, like if you had to like nail it down. So I noticed like with TLC, people were, they were attached to that vintage aesthetic and all the history and memories and romance or whatever of that, but they less and less had any attachment to the archaic mechanical. So I realized, old Land Cruiser guys would throw V8s in them, whatever. I mean, it's been done since the 60s. But people are still doing it the way they were done in the 60s. So like cast iron, bored out carburetor. I hate carburetors. Still did like the 3-speed tranny and transfer, which kept blowing up. So I was like, well, what would be the modern take on that? And if we just respected the silhouette and the shape of it and just scratch engineered the whole thing in chorus, we could elevate it. Same with like, I hate plastics, so like all the fit and finish and machining and stuff. So the FJ put us on the map. We do the FJ in 4 different body styles. And then we do the Bronco-based design we call the Icon BR. Then we do the TR based on the 47 to 53 Chevy pickup. And those are our, using the term lightly, production models. Then we do these crazy one-offs, which are derelicts or reformers. You experienced a reformer, which is concourse pretty, hiding all the engineering for the most part. And the derelicts, which are kind of my personal favorite, look literally like we dragged them out of a barn, and then we work very hard to hide that we did anything.
Now,
So keep the patina and the funk.
Are the derelicts, are those coming from customers or do those come from you? Like, do you find an old husk of a body and then go, I'm going to do this, and then start calling folks and going, hey, Zuckerman, write me a check. We're going to do this project together. How does it start?
I don't think any... Yeah, one derelict. We have a 48 Rolls James Young convertible. That's the first one that the client actually hadn't sent to us. Otherwise, generally, people will come to us like with a concept, with a car that they have some deep attachment to. Like, my dad had a 50 Roadmaster, and he was always on the road. And when he'd come back, he'd open that big old trunk, and he'd bring us kids, gifts from the road. I want that, and it has to be that color. Or I bully him into the stuff I want that I haven't had the money to build personally.
Right. When I was there, you were working on an Aston Martin, I thought. What? Tell us about that car.
That was
there was a Ferrari there, too, right?
Yeah,
at 330.
Yeah, 250 GTE. We're getting started on that.
Wow,
so the Aston...
That was some crazy stuff. What a palette.
Oh, it's nuts.
I had no idea. I thought it was.
I
thought it was
the longer
FJs.
we do these derelicts, the diversity of cars that are coming to us is just absurd.
The Ferrari 250, are you sticking with the Ferrari engine? What's happening with that?
Oh, boy, contentious debate. You just
that's why I'm wading into it. I want to know.
Conventionally, right? You put a Ferrari in a Ferrari and you do nothing else. And like everyone loves the sound of a Colombo. It's like a no-brainer. But if we back up for a second, like what's Icon all about? Drivability, serviceability, refinement, and longevity. So is putting an engine in that vehicle that's pain in the ass and unreliable and you have to disassemble, every 10,000 miles if you're lucky, is that the right way to go? I argue no, sir. But the client who commissioned it, we had 2 different forks in the road. First one was powertrain. So I'm like, look, Maranello 550 is probably the best solution for a contemporary 12, which we can run with a Motec, and it makes all the lovely sounds. Now, personally, I owned one of those, and I'm very lucky that I got it in and out of my system, checked the box, and still made a profit. It was a pain in my ass. Every time I took that car out, it was something else. Right. And like Eric in the Valley and all the Ferrari geeks, they're like, oh, yeah, man, they're the best. They're like the Camry of Ferraris. They're so reliable, you're going to love it. And about like my 5th flatbed trip home with a pissed off wife, I called up Eric. I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? He's like, oh, well, I said Camry of Ferraris. So, it's like trying to defend it in context. But anyway, so that was the debate with the client. I said, look, we can put a modern 12 in it and, here are your concerns and, serviceability and all that stuff. Or we could do something like an LS3 E-Rod, which I can redress and repackage to make it have design synergy, meaning get rid of all the damn plastic, one-off valve covers, take an early oval track black wrinkle valve cover, customize it, and give it the aesthetic so it's in flow. And then work with Borla to shrill up the exhaust and do some engineering for exhaust tone. And he went for the LS. Then the fun one was, okay, body-wise, cool car. They're beautiful. Of all the four-seater Ferraris, to me, they're way prettier than the Queen Mary and all the others. So I'm like, we can leave that alone. Or you can elect to go into this ridiculously expensive cul-de-sac of fun. And here's some renderings of what if we restyled it, pulling elements from all the different Ferraris of that era that I personally dig. So like the side vent on them are like a joke. They look like they'd be on a Lamborghini tractor back in the day because they were an afterthought. Peenan had nothing to do with it. When it got back to Ferrari and they were overheating like hell, they're like, "Allora, what do we do?" So
got some
they
holes.
put in those. That was the first, I believe. You would know better than me. I think that's the first Ferrari with what became the signature side vent, but certainly the crudest of them. So I'm like, and then the hoods on the 330 America are super sexy, and we could do this. And so the client, we're doing like a ridiculous amount of body mods, with the end goal being, if you're not a major Ferrari geek, you go, my God, that's like the most beautiful vintage Ferrari. What model is that? I've never seen one of those. But meanwhile, we're doing like a low light modification to the nose. We're Frenching in the turn sigs and on and on.
Chuck
and on.
Barris over here. We got Chuck.
They won't look Chuck Barris.
I don't work in paper mache, my friend.
I understand, but we're going to change the C and icon to a K.
Should we just forgive him and roll forward and call that a compliment?
No, but I'm just hearing some real major. I'm being blown away by where you're going with what I thought was just modernizing FJs.
Yeah,
I'm just hearing money. Like, so you end up with this Ferrari now that you're paying probably what, $500,000? What are we talking about here?
Here's the thing.
And what is it actually worth?
Yeah, it's what was that crazy Punjabi? What was that thing you drove in the show that was out in the valley? The one-off engine.
No, the UAB and Puma.
The Puma.
That's
The
nothing
Punjabi?
again.
Oh no, you drove the
nothing
Puma?
like what he does.
Man,
what are you talking
please, that's like, I'm out of here if you're a guy.
That's
when
an
I saw that
insane
thing, I was
vehicle.
completely blown away. Like, BMW on April 1st
Yes.
always did their April Fool's release.
Right.
Like, if you told me the Punjabi
Punjabi.
was the
UAB
April,
and Puma.
If that was their April Fool's joke, I would have said it was their best one ever.
It was a skin specialist who is named UAB.
I met him. He's a kind guy.
Very nice
And
guy
good for
with
him
the
for
dream.
Following his dream.
He had this dream ever since he was a child, more of a nightmare than a dream, to design a car, and he took the elements. He's you without any real design
the
talent.
Fitzcarraldo of the
No,
car
but it's a
world.
huge difference.
Right.
Like at the two
I
different ends
understand.
of the
I'm joking.
spectrum, you have Jonathan Ward, and then you have Mr. UAB, and he knows how to do it and blend the elements.
But
how to take
your question is
right
is,
and make the
is
sprinkles
apt.
cupcake, and this guy was just like, I'm gonna, you know what I like? I like steak. I like caramel. I like. I'm just gonna put it in a blender and then freeze it. And
Here's the thing, though. At the end of the day, that says something amazing about our
Him.
culture and the land of our opportunities, that he can do that.
Yeah.
And I can do this.
Yes.
And like Henry Ford said, there is an ass for every seat, and bless everyone for building whatever the hell they're doing professionally or in their garage. It's creative expression, and the fact that you can just do it, killer.
There's no ass for the UAB and Puma. He was wrong
You
about
might
that.
be right. Well, his ass, right?
But
So there
when
go.
you do meet him, he's a sweetheart of a
Yeah,
guy
I met
with a
him.
dream, and he
Yeah.
accomplished something.
He's
and
passionate, and that's
it's just
everything.
everyone hated
almost
it.
everything. No, in fact, today today we kick off. We've done all the renders and all that, and today we're doing the full 360 Faro laser scan of that Ferrari to get it into CAD so we can build it up.
Now, are you sitting there with a pen and pencil and paper and doing these drawings yourself, or do you have a design team who does it, or how does that work?
So I'm the idiot with the idea and somewhat skilled in sketching in CAD, but not nearly good enough to make me look like I know what the hell I'm doing. So
Right.
my sketches will be internal reference. My CAD will be handed off to my engineers. And then I don't know if you know Eric Black, E-Black Design.
I don't.
Absolute rock star designer of rendering for me. I'm like his one client that he's like, I don't do renders. I do design work. I'm like, okay, well, I dig your stuff, but I'm kind of that ass who's going to come to you with like 1,001 perspectives and opinions that need to go on the car, and you just need to make me look sexy. So, and we become dear friends. He's, I think, the best. He's actually an architect hot rodder who hated architecture and followed his passions. Again, I guess that's our
What's
theme.
your background into this whole thing? I'm curious. I don't mean to usurp
No, go
your
ahead.
role.
No,
I'm
it's
just
a
curious.
good, fun story. I am totally not qualified to do what I do. I have zero. Let's start
Welcome
there.
to the table. None of us are.
I have no degrees, nothing whatsoever. Night school, extensive reader, researcher. I just am driven and always have been driven by design. So I'm that geek who, when I'm traveling or, anywhere, anything, like even the buttons on the elevator, I'll be like, oh, that's cool. And I'll research it. And I used to be super sensitive to not having the degree, but as I've developed relationships with the design colleges and especially Art Center in Pasadena, I'm actually now like super protective and happy about that because it defines a unique perspective, which perhaps makes my voice unique in the market because I don't know any better.
Right.
And now I'm like happy.
You're not
to know any
chained by a
better.
formal education.
Yeah, totally.
What were
And
you thinking about?
unfortunately, that like puts blinders on people.
What were you thinking about growing up? What did you want to do?
Design. But
So
I didn't
really?
even know. I didn't grow up in an environment where that was even. I didn't know who Raymond Loewy was. I didn't know this was a career.
Where'd you grow up?
Maryland and then New York City. And it was our move to New York City when I was 8 that opened my eyes. I was in the rural Maryland on a farm.
Right.
Straight to New York City.
Wow.
And then I was like, holy, like the sense of design from light poles to architecture to store windows. And I lived in Hell's Kitchen. And then that just blew it up for me.
And what'd your dad do?
My dad's an attorney, and I'm a failure. I was supposed to be an attorney.
There you go.
Some failure you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And I'm an attorney, and I'm jealous of what I'm hearing from you, right?
I
So's my
know.
dad. That's
Right.
the irony now.
Right.
Yeah.
And I wonder where that love of design came from.
I have absolutely no clue, but I'm kind of OCD on details, as you've seen at the shop and in my builds. And for me, like, I've done, like, my fingers are all nasty because I woke up early and I was doing my current obsession hobby, art craft, which is fine leather crafting. But I've done, like, pre-Raphaelite painting and sculpting and leather craft and woodwork. And interestingly, to me, automotive was such an interesting, extroverted platform with which I could communicate my different personal skills and passions and craft. So that's how it really started. And when I was 15, well, I came to California when I was 15, and then I overheard from a new friend that you get a driver's license at 15 and a half. I'm like, shit, I'm never leaving this place.
Yeah.
So I stayed here. I bought an old 55 Ford X G-Man car. So bulletproof
Awesome.
windows, none of which rolled down. It was a complete disaster. But I started tinkering and taking apart and restoring. And like the first 15, 20 cars I did, I was like, it must be stock, down to the imperfections of originality. And then one day I was like, but why? Like, why would we? There's more... there's better approaches. There's more reliable solutions. You can take both manufacturing technique, reverse engineering, resources, and aesthetic and design choices. As a designer, then your big challenge is to make them all flow cohesively in that platform. But I've always like dabbled into like aerospace and marine and rail car and architecture, and then just started mixing it up and pissing off the purist. And I never stopped. It's fun to piss off purists, I've realized.
Absolutely.
Good
Disruption.
fun. Yes.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back with more Jonathan Ward after this. If you're looking to buy a car, you're probably familiar with the terms MSRP. You might even know what it stands for. But what does it actually mean? The same goes for invoice, list price, and dealer price. It's enough to confuse anybody. All you're really looking for is a price that actually means something. Introducing True Price from True Car. Now you can know exactly what you'll pay for the car you want, including fees and accessories, before you even get to the dealership. True Car dealers will show you the true price on cars like the one you want, all from the comfort of your home. And how do you know if your True Price car is a great price? Because True Car shows you what other people paid for the same car you want. And your certified dealers know this, so they set their true price competitively so they can win your business. So when you're ready to buy a new or used car, visit True Car to enjoy a more confident car buying experience. Some features not available in all states.
Hey, podcast listener, this is Rob Cesternino. I'm the Rob, and Rob Has a Podcast, and the new season of Survivor is just getting started, and we've got new episodes for you 5 days a week. Join us for interviews with your favorite past Survivor players and this season's losers right after they get their torch snubbed. Listen free to Rob Has a Podcast, exclusively available on Apple Podcasts, PodcastOne.com, and the Podcast One app. And if you like the show, why not share it with a friend or leave us a rating and review on iTunes?
You're listening to Spike's Car Radio.
Welcome back to Spike's Car Radio. We're here with Jonathan Ward for Icon 4x4. You know, it's funny when we take these breaks. They're like fake breaks, and then we put a little sponsorship commercial in there. That's where
we
the
never
show,
stop talking.
Right.
Yeah, that's where the show it really starts. So what, Zuckerman? You're all excited.
I just said to him. So how did you get your? So you you bought the G-Man car, and then you just went into restoration, and then it went from there. That's what I asked him, and he said not quite.
So basically, at that time, I had a completely different career in entertainment.
Yes,
and it was going great. But then I had a stalker who was trying to kill me that at first was worth exactly a laugh and then turned into having to carry concealed, not go to my house. It was a complete disaster.
You were a successful child actor. Would we know?
Actually, the rest of that sentence is, but I didn't want to talk about it online. But
we're
here.
No. I'm sorry. I didn't
I
hear.
should know better. Scorpion by the river. It's a good storyline. No, but
when you were a child or you were a teenager?
All the way through.
So
I moved to New York because I was doing Peter Pan on Broadway.
Oh, wow.
And then I did The Little Prince and Macbeth and had a great New York Broadway career
and I've
experience.
seen you.
And then over the years, CBS moved me to California to do a series. And it was a great experience. I got to travel the world. I was never really a kid's kid.
Right.
So it was really cool that if I dedicated myself and paid attention and had the passion and skill, I was part of a community, a family on set or on stage. And I loved that because I was kind of bored being a kid. And I didn't even like other kids. They were really boring. But I loved older people. And
who does that sound like, Zuckerman?
So it was killer.
It sounds like us, right?
It was killer, but then it got to the point that I realized that whole scene, the celebrity scene, I was like Teeny Bopper magazine known, but not remotely famous. Mm-hmm. And the crap I was having to deal with. And then looking at friends who were truly famous and what their lifestyle turned into, what they had to do.
Right.
And I was like, eh. So I bailed. My wife was in music management. We were on vacation in Africa, and we literally, with no SWOT analysis, no intelligence, no forethought, we're like, screw it. When we get home, let's quit. Let's reinvent ourselves. And you know Grant Wood's Cars with Class?
Yeah. I don't.
So,
I don't know.
Yeah, Grant's a good guy. So he was in Van Nuys, and he wanted to get the hell out of the valley. But he had this long lease, and it had all the permits and zoning, everything that was cool. So I just dumbly went up to Grant, dude, I'll take over.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. We're talking 95.
Yeah.
So then it's just kind of organically grown. It's been running on the treadmill ever since.
Wow.
And it's killer. I love it.
How many cars do you have for sale or trucks at any given time? Do we go to your inventory and find 10 things on there? Or
Zero.
There's zero, right?
I have no inventory. I mean,
occasionally. I see Joel McHale driving around in one of your
Joel.
creations.
Yeah, he's such a good guy.
So it's really just somebody who wants something different. With a few of the trucks that I saw were they're so bespoke. They were just. Every detail was put together but they were also really expensive, right? They were
no, it's asinine.
Some of them were like $500,000 or more.
Yeah, I mean the cost to do what I do, the way I want to do it, I literally am embarrassed of.
So how do these trucks get used?
But I'm a maniac in that I don't want to compromise on the vision of why.
Right.
10 years in, I am, in 20 years with TLC, why I'm still passionate and committed to doing it is that I look at the automotive industry, and frankly, I think just about every brand's a whore. You go back to Ettore Bagate, his cars were expensive, but why? Because he held the line of the quality and the content and the story, and that costs us significant short-term opportunities for collab or merch or whatever, but I want the brand to mean something when I'm long gone. And I'm already super impressed how many people know the brand without, I mean, we don't advertise or anything.
Right.
And then if they know it, they generally know what it stands for. Or they go, oh, those pricks, that's so expensive. I can build it for $20,000.
No.
But whatever.
You see them on the road or driving around L.A. and they stand out, and you
have
tend to
never
chase
seen
them.
one.
Oh, I see them all the
Really?
time. Yeah, you can't miss them.
Are there some on the market right now?
They occasionally, right? They come back to you.
Yeah,
The
I
guys
generally
who just,
resell them.
He can resell them.
Yeah,
but
and the guys will like have me order another model and then sell
Right.
that one. Or we just had a dude who gave up. He moved to New York City, Lower West Side for business, and he's like, dude, what am I going to do with this here in the city? So the retention's really cool. And something I never expected, like over 30% of our clients have 2 or more of them.
wow.
Which is really
Really?
Yeah.
And what is the ideal usage for you? Do you like to see your trucks?
Beat it, slam it, slide it. When I get them back like a year or two later, and a owner has put like 1,500 miles on it, I'm kind of bummed.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
it's good for us because then we can sign it and resell it, and we may make more business sense on the resale than actually crafting it. But no, I'm kind of bummed. I want people to beat on it.
There's nothing that they can do to that truck that you can't fix, right?
Or anyone can.
And this is
Yeah,
a perfect little segue because this is going to go into watches. I know you're a watch guy too, but I bought a Daytona from Wanna Buy a Watch years ago, and on the way out the door, the guy said, I want you to wear this, and I want you to beat on it, and don't worry about any part of it.
Is that the one you still have today?
It's still the one I still have today. But it was such a liberating thing to hear that because it was such a precious little thing at the time. He said, I've got everything. I've got the crystals. I've got the bracelets. Just wear it every day. Wear it in the bathtub. Do whatever you want.
And then, well, look, that's what we're here to do.
And that's what we're
right?
here to do, right?
Enjoy stuff. What's the point of blowing money on things and putting them away and not enjoying it? It's like when you get these monster car collections that you and I get exposed to over time. It's like, yeah, they're pretty, but the whole point was they're highly functioning sculptures. Mm-hmm. So you should be enjoying that auditory sensation, that dynamic man-machine connection. Like, get out there. Like, whoop on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are you saving it for?
Right?
The next guy?
None of us are getting out of here alive, so might as well.
Zuckerman, he's only got 2 good summers left, and then he's off
But maybe
the planet.
not even. You realize that I bought one of my partners who grew up in Iowa, and he's a little younger than me. His dream car was a Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am. And I said, I'll find you one. And I went online, and I found one with 65 miles.
Whoa.
65?
65. The kid who bought it at 18 thought that this was the greatest car in the world. He never even let the dealers prep it, never let them drill through the plastic bumper.
Oh, my God.
It is shining brand new. I forgot those cars had a shine to them when they
Who
were.
has this car? Where is it?
It's at RK Classic Cars. It's
RK
an insane,
again?
Yes,
You're so addicted to RK Classics.
I understand, but he wanted this car, and when I showed it to him, he went crazy. And he's such a great guy.
Did you buy it?
Yeah, we bought it. And
When?
It's yesterday, the day before, sometime recently.
This is nonstop.
I
Jonathan.
said,
So what's next? Like the next generation's version of that car that you see bought with no miles, the Grand Nationals.
Exactly.
Yeah, right,
Yes,
right.
And he said, "What
Those
do I
get
do?"
driven.
I said, "Some guy saved it for you. Some poor guy never got pleasure out of this thing, and you're going to use it as it was meant to be.
Black
used.
and gold.
Of course, with the gold,
Yeah,
the gold
and
package.
the faux damasked dash.
Oh
wow.
yes, the machine turned plastic dash, and guess what? Velour.
Yeah, so hot.
Okay, what do you want to guess? Don't tell us. What do you think that car cost? RK Classics, they're up about maybe 20% above market, in my opinion.
What's your data
Now
point
65.
for this?
I'm going to say that was 85,000.
I'm going to say 110 because it's irreplaceable.
And Zuckerman can get a deal. Go ahead. What's the number?
Okay, the number is very close to what this gentleman just said. Yes, and maybe a little bit
Jonathan, not
more.
me.
For those on the radio, he pointed to me.
Yes,
But he said more.
more.
Really?
A little more. But there is again.
Was it autographed by Burt Reynolds?
It should have been. Or was it Sally Field?
Has somebody been driving this thing? Do you have to do everything to it?
65 miles.
I know,
And
but
that's
was it stored properly? Was
it
the
was
gas
stored
and the
properly,
oil taken out of
but
it?
we are doing. Imagine this, and you know this. the tires are original
Square.
Uniroyal.
Oh, no.
They've got the hardness of golf balls and the durability of your kid's water balloon. And so I said to him, look,
what are you going to do?
Well, you have to change the belts, the hoses,
Jesus,
the brake
everything.
lines, the tires, and you have to make
no,
it.
you are so upside down right now.
Okay. You
But
know
who
what?
cares? Again, let's go
Who
back
cares?
to
Right. Who cares?
screw it.
Right.
It's
a garden sculpture.
But no, come on. The headspace that puts you, and more importantly, your buddy into.
Yeah, I know. I'm
I mean,
joking.
I don't sound like a salesman, but it's priceless.
It's priceless. And I said, we're going to get a bunch of RK T-shirts with the sleeves removed, and I'm going to get a
you got to
fake
shred the belly.
Yeah,
part.
and I'm going to get a fake
Put beads
fringe
on it.
on the back of my hair.
So you are going to drive it. You will drive it, Zuckerman. I will see you in this.
I will let him drive it. It's his car, and he's going to love it. It's got 6.6 liter engine, 3-speed turbo hydromatic.
So here's the thing, though, right?
Right.
So Zuckerman is my client.
Right.
After he drives it for 20 or 30 miles and says,
Yep.
whoa, this is not my mind's eye vision of what this experience is going to be. This doesn't move like it did in the movies.
Right.
This sucks. It's archaic. Then
Right.
you'll send it to me, and then we'll really...
Yeah.
And let me tell you something.
That
What's
would be
funny
great.
is, and I had a '79 Formula Firebird, and I said to my partner Nick, I said, remember, I said, even in my mind, I know my memory tells me that this thing drove better than it actually did,
And my
and I
memory
don't,
said it
and I
sucked.
know, and I know that it. I said, this is a primitive thing. These cars are primitive, and they are, aren't they?
What would you do to that, Jonathan?
Well, first of all, I'd advise my client against using that car, and I'd say, let's find one that's original paint and complete, but tired. So I'd bring it in, I'd liberate the shell, we'd scan it, we'd figure out the best equation. Personally, I'd probably do 4-wheel independent underneath, hydro-boosted Brembos, Dana 60 nodular in the rear. Art Morris and I would partnership on the chassis development. I'd do BMW 16.8 to 1 rack and pinion, so it's tight but not twitchy.
Tasty.
And then I'd probably do, I used to be
engine.
more conservative with power, and now like my clients push me deeper and deeper. And now like I love the CTSV LS9. That's good fun.
Jesus,
and then a
600 horsepower?
Sure, why not? And then a 6-speed. Well, yeah, but see, now you have the brakes and the handling and everything to support it. Then I'd do things like I'd take that dash and I'd actually do proper stainless machine turn. I'd take all the knobs and scan them and redo them in proper metals and
And you
I'd
don't
sexy it up.
Okay.
I'd keep the funk that the original car had.
Funk.
But I'd increase the tactile of everything you interface
Yeah.
with and then make it just drive like crazy.
And it would, even all that it's almost, 3,900 pounds of real steel. What are you going to do with
Won't
that?
matter. I can put an LS9 in it and
Right.
problem solved. And you know what? I think heavier cars are underrated in that if you get your weight distribution and suspension and power relative to the weight, I actually prefer the sensation of a heavier car in certain scenarios. Like you want to talk, like whatever, like a light and sprite and twitchy car is one space, but like daily, I'd actually prefer heavily brake and horsepower equipped heavier car. Just I like
So we
the
could
feel of
take,
it.
I could give you something like a 64 Galaxy, which is 20 some odd feet long, the biggest boat that, and came with a 390 and a 4-speed and was insane with the drum brakes. You could make that thing go.
Oh yeah, and stop actually, which is really novel.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I saw this morning a 64 Biscayne with a 409 original paint on Craigslist with like the herringbone upholstery, heater delete, radio delete. And it was pretty cheap. I'm like,
Real sportsman's car. This guy can give you the fever. Talking to him, I'm getting the
Zuckerman,
fever.
never go to that shop.
I'm not.
It is
I
so
told-
intoxicating. It's aside from it being so beautiful and clean, and all of the old cars outside and the beautiful things inside these beautiful big open bays. I remember walking in. Frank Sinatra was playing over the loudspeakers. And it's just like, what?
Oh, you're fucked.
What
You
is
move
this
in there.
place?
You're
It's
fucked
like,
if you go there.
It's heaven. I wanted to work there.
we grew since you were last there too. Fortunately, we trained and hired a bunch of new dudes and more square footage. So we're at like 78,000 square and 50 plus right now.
Yeah, no. It's really so. You got to check it out.
feet is a real
Zuck, you gotta go.
factory.
You gotta go.
We just started.
You got to check it out.
Not going. Not going.
Let's
I'd
talk
like to
watches because we don't have a lot of time here, and I wanted to segue into the watches.
Okay.
What you're building your own watches now?
Yeah.
You're also a collector, right?
Yeah.
I think I remember catching up with your watch thing when I saw you post a Bulova, this beautiful.
Which I wore today in your honor.
Oh, there
'cause
it
I know
is.
you love it.
Look
I
at
can't
that
believe you
suck-
haven't picked one of these up
Oh
yet.
my God, that
that
is
thing
so
is
great!
beautiful.
Look at how pretty that watch is.
And what's cool, like off the beaten path, I can't afford your Rolex taste, so
Oh,
I look
please.
for the
Oh,
funk
sure you
right,
can.
this
and
is
more interesting
78,000 square
Yeah,
foot
and that's
factory.
exactly why I can't afford it.
The monthly rent
How
is
could I
only
buy this?
6 figures of rent per month.
Which goes right back to why I cannot afford his watch collection.
Exactly. It's like when Matt Farah pleads
So-
comedy.
Let me see that thing.
It's gorgeous.
Again,
It is
like
beyond.
just a design geek, and like let's see, when I was 8, the first 2 things I found myself sketching up were cars and watches. Cars organically grew out of a hobby. Now I guess same thing's happening with my watch obsession. So one of my all-time favorite designs I saw on a car that I looked at and said, "Oh my goodness, that'd be a killer watch," was the first 250 some Studebakers.
I knew he was gonna
I'm
say
sorry,
it.
Duesenbergs had the most marvelous tacks and speedos. They call them the drum style. Apparently, they're ridiculously unreliable, but they're super cool. So then other details like the body hardware, the radiator cap on the early. So my first watch effort, which I designed myself 100% down to the strap, I'm having it made in Switzerland by one of the legend houses, but it's called the Doozy, and it's inspired by those early
Yeah.
Duesenbergs.
And that's what it. Excuse me. That's what it looks like. Boy, it's really unconventional. It looks like
Wow.
an instrumental.
Yeah,
It really
like
does
the
look like a
transparent
car
back
from
there.
the 20s or 30s. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
so back then, watches also the direct read or digital or
How do
jump
you-
hour designs existed back then, and then kind of.
But how does that happen? So you come up with a watch design. Who do you call and go, "Hey, let's make this"?
Oh, it's crazy! It's such
I mean, are you
cagey-
sketching out the interior and the movement and everything else? I mean, how does that work?
I went from sketches straight into Fusion 360 CAD with our friends at Autodesk. Kindly sent me a tutor for about a year, once a week.
Right.
And instead of doing automotive projects on it, because I have engineers who are rock stars at that, I'm like, good opportunity to get this stupid watch idea out of my head and start going for it.
Right.
So I did all the CAD modeling and design, and nothing.
What does CAD modeling mean? I don't even know what you're saying.
3D computer-aided design.
I see.
So
Okay.
I'm building out all the. I went straight from sketches into realized 3D, because then I 3D print it at the shop and get a feel for the size and tolerance.
But do you know what I'm saying? Do you really
was
know how
stupid.
a movement works on a watch?
No, and again, do I want to hemorrhage money and build a
Right.
one-off movement that no one can get serviced anywhere on the planet? No.
So we all,
So-
I mean, I think we all think in our heads we could design a dial. We could make
Right.
it look like
So
a watch.
Dial,
So
crown,
right, okay.
case, all the chamfers and all that. But I worked with
Chamfers. I don't know what a chamfer
my
is.
cool
chamfer.
Her chamfers.
You make it sound really
It was
perverted.
next to her plenum.
Plenum in her chamfers with throbbing.
No, I stuck with a Dupree-Duprat complication, so an existing Swiss movement. And then I flew back and forth to Switzerland to the Basel show and stuff, literally knocking on doors and meeting
Yeah.
with companies large and small.
Wow.
And none of them wanted to work with me.
And peddling your design.
Yeah, well, saying, look, this is my
I
idea.
wanna do this.
I want to do this. And they're like, the minimum SKU is 500 units. I'm like, well, that's stupid. That's a broken model in today's watch world.
Right.
I only want to do 50. And literally all of them told me to piss off.
Right.
Then I got totally lucky. Like last meeting with the company I realized was the best. The guy's like, yeah, no, man, sorry. We're done. And the CEO of the company is like just doing his sort of meet and greet, shake hands of all us people in meetings with his execs. He comes through. We swap cards. He gets halfway out the door. He turns around and he goes, I know you. I know Icon. My friend in Moscow. He has one of your trucks. He loves it. It's wonderful. I didn't know you did watches. And I'm like, well, I don't, but I'm trying to. And everyone's telling me to piss off. He goes, no. Love your brand. We'll make this work. Let's do it. So make this work means they charge me double what they would have charged everybody else.
But at least you could do it.
But at least I can do 50, right? So my launch model, 50 units. We're pre-selling them now. We've sold just over half of them. And they are ready for delivery in the first couple weeks of April. And I'm stupid excited.
And where do we order this watch if we
It's
want
on my
it?
website or iconwatchcompany.com.
Well, that's insane. So I mean, learning lots of things that you can go to a watch company and pay them to make. They're just guys out there. Like
Yeah.
if we wanted to
It's
design,
a whole like hidden network because all these brands that have the 2-page, 3-page glossy
Right.
ads with the dude in the lab coat with the loop talking about their history of craftsmanship.
Yes.
90% of them are completely full of shit.
Really?
And they're calling companies like the one I partnered with to actually do the work for them.
right? So it's
So-
like Luxottica in Italy. They make all the sunglasses for the world, right? And everybody just stamps their brand on it and charges
But
whatever
isn't
they want to charge.
Luxottica's like in Asia, which is worse yet, too. Like nowadays for a Swiss watch, you can get the exact same quality out of Asia now. Like
Really?
no compromise. Because in reality, a high percentage of Swiss watches and even some brands you'd be surprised have football field long factories in
Mm-hmm.
Asia. But the Swiss government and industry have manipulated so Swiss made obviously has
anything.
panache, but it's a crock. It's BS. I'm sure a percentage of my watch was not made there.
Right,
But if I went
right.
to the market and said, hey, look, that's all BS and judge my quality, no one wants to hear that. No one
Right,
wants to.
right.
They want to see Swiss made on the dial, which really bugged me because it's too big, so I put Swiss made on the How
Wow.
dare I?
And then what happens? Now we've made a watch. We've made a truck.
So
Are we going to make Eames chairs or something? The
I've-
Icon
Boat,
4x4
yeah,
chair?
No, I've designed some seating actually.
You have?
Yeah,
I bet you
and then
have.
all
Seating.
my
Not a chair, seating.
but I can't figure out how to make it cost effectively or remotely, so they're just in my office. But same with my leathercraft hobby. I'm starting now to kind of go.
What about liquor? Are you going to sell liquor? You seem like you might have a
No, I
bourbon
think-
brand of some kind.
I'm a Scotch man.
Oh, Scotch.
Definitely
there
a
you
Scotch
go.
guy. But no, I think the problem with that is I could end up wealthy from it. So it just doesn't seem to fit my MO. These guys, man, it's crazy. Who was the actor who just did that and flipped his tequila?
Randy
Oh,
Gerber
yeah.
and George
and
Clooney.
Clooney.
Clooney,
That's
$1
just
billion.
batshit.
Yes.
That is
Another
nuts.
$1 billion.
Look, at the end of the day, I just want to keep living the dream that allows me to be passionate about what I do, justify all my travel and perversions in design and things I dig, and create stuff
Sex
I
toys.
love. So if that means I can explore other avenues of industrial design and get in, I want to keep doing watches, but if I could get into all sorts of vintage stuff revisited for modern use, I'm just full of stupid ideas. I just need to. I have no funding, no investors. We're independent, so I'm just on the treadmill, running as fast as I can. Hopefully, I don't trip, and keep coming up with stuff that I love. That hopefully other people love enough to buy.
Yeah. Well, I've driven your stuff. It's amazing stuff. Even the you lent us an FJ for Car Matchmaker that I hopped into.
Oh, a stalker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was so sorted. It was so together. We had it up against an old Series 2A Range Rover
boom, we
right-hand
nailed it.
drive.
We had to. Rovers.
Yeah, and one of those God, what was it? It was
Nissan
this
Patrol?
Russian no, it wasn't Russian. It was a Mercedes military vehicle. Those and this
Proper G, an early G.
yeah, an early one that came out of Czechoslovakia or something. And there's a shop in
Pinsgauer or something.
Pinzgauer style.
wasn't
Boots. I
Pinzgauer.
love saying that.
I know. It's a mouthful. Huh?
just had a little 4-cylinder diesel in it. It just was not strong. And
We did a series of those for Red Bull many years ago.
Yeah.
And they're so funny because they're such nationalists, right? And they're like, yeah, it could come in and show up at the festival, and we want the back to open like a lunchbox, and the music booming, and the cooler is full of product, and we hand it out. I'm like, guys, not going to work. Like, these things will climb a wall at 2 miles an hour. But
Right.
if you think you're like going to put a young intern in it and send him across country with like an extra 2 tons of product in the back, like, not going to fly.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we know it's great. It's Austrian and we know all the right people for the upgrade. I'm like, okay. Sure enough, when it was done, it was a complete disaster. They barely would move. What they ended up doing was building custom 18-wheeler lowboys
to tow it.
They would
to tow
it like up to like a quarter mile away from the event. And then they'd roll
push it in.
the event.
Oh, that's so sad.
Another dash
happens.
stream in the car world.
And what do you drive, Jonathan Ward? What are you in every day?
I'm a total schizophrenic.
So give us your top three.
I'm usually test driving the latest to make sure we chase all the rattles. Like today I drove one of our Bronco number 56, I think it is. But I have a 993 twin turbo, dead stock. I have what my kids call my old queen car. A 95 Bentley Continental Molnar Coupe. The last of the honest, handmade, worthless car.
that.
They're worth like $20,000. I love that car.
Yeah.
You got to be careful though, because like if it sees the 10 freeway, it just goes east to Palm Springs, and you lose all control. Anyway, and then 52 DeSoto station wagon, derelict. It's the first one we built. 73 1800 ES wagon, Volvo.
Wow.
And if we're staying, and a 2002 Roundy. BMW.
Which car do the kids like the best?
The Roundy. My kids are. In fact, my 15-year-old, I found him a decent Project TII, and he's just going off on it all day. Like he Ubers from school to the shop, begs me to stay late. He's tinkering and dialing.
Isn't that cool?
Wow, there
Good
you
for
go.
Man.
There you
That's
go.
fantastic.
And the irony, all my cars, except for my derelict, are dead stock.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
But I like that you're driving the stuff that you're building, because that's the only way to get them right.
Oh,
Do you
totally.
subscribe to the 110,
Yeah.
100, 1,000 rule of
We
just
put like 600 miles on every production unit, and if it's a one-off, we'll put 1,200 to 2,500, depending on if it's
hearing that.
It's
You
the
know,
only.
we've
This
been
is
through
this
that.
is all
Everything.
we do.
It's everything.
We always buy cars that we end up having to sort ourselves. In fact, I think every car I bought for the last 25 years, I've gone through this 2 to 3 month sorting round
sucks.
with them.
And I hear those stories from my clients buying from worldly celebrated builders, and they get there and they're just a mess.
Yep.
Which shit happens. They're complicated mechanical beasts, but to me, that has such a negative impact on the experience and the brand impression that we do everything we can to sort every last stupid rattle before it gets there.
Right,
We've
right.
just come to expect that. That's just the we
Of course,
expect,
and we should.
We've come to expect
you
being
kinda expect the
disappointed.
latter.
We come to expect that we're going to do the last 7%, the niggles.
And you know what's crazy though? That last 7% for us can kill us time wise.
Right.
Can hemorrhage money in hours.
Well,
But it's the most important.
That's what's happening with us right
now.
now.
That's where all of the enjoyment is in that last 7%. It's the difference.
For you, not for us to sort it out. It sucks. It's very frustrating.
But for us, it's that last 7% that's the difference of being irritated or being blown away.
Totally.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, we've got the 87, the silver car sorted. You drove it, right? It's great, right?
The little door to the cassette makes a little noise.
A little. What do you mean?
Tick, 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 tick. It rattles.
A little spring on the
the little spring. It actually, and doesn't bother me.
You're going to start with a complaint about how sorted that car
That's
is.
how little. That's how minimal
I know how
my
to fix
complaints
that.
are.
I know how to fix that.
Yeah.
So you go to like Aaron Brothers or whatever. So you get those little tiny little like nipples of urethane that like, if you're going to hang a picture and you put them on the back to keep from marring your walls.
There you go.
Get the tiniest of those you can and install it between the back plane of the face and where the swing door touches.
Yes, but that's how small
How did
the
it drive?
problems
How
are.
did
What are you
Don't
talking
be
about?
disappointed what I'm
87
saying.
We just bought an 87
It's the
911
most fantastic
together.
drive. Told you already. It's the best 911 we own.
Well, obviously, it's for the listeners. It's not for
told
me.
you- I know, but the way you say
I'm bringing it up now
because
because I
want
want
your face, the disapproving look that I said something about the cassette door.
Yeah, because you're skipping past the headline. I want the listeners to go on the
Spike,
journey with us.
It's fantastic, and everything that we did was right. Everything in particular, you got that last 2 or 3% with the stereo, with the speakers.
Do you feel the warped wheel? Is what everybody
No,
wants
I
to know.
do not feel the warped wheel whatsoever, and I drove it in excess of 100 miles an hour.
You did.
On PCH the other night, and I was flying. That thing was gliding. It was so light. It was so nimble. It was so perfect.
Good.
It remapped and rewired my brain.
All right. Well, this weekend I want you to drive the Leaf T. It just came back. It has this. Maybe I should give it to you, Jonathan. It's got this thunk
I'm sorry,
in it.
you want to give me a Leaf?
A leaf green 911T.
Oh, I thought you were talking about a
1970
Nissan
Porsche.
Leaf, and I was like, dude,
No.
I thought you understood
That
me.
would be cool. But there's a sound in it This is shaping up to be one of those horrible situations where there's a sound and we can't figure out what the hell it is.
Oh, I'm in the middle of that right now. It's killing me.
It's bad.
We have a FJ44 that's a month late for delivery because there's this deep thud.
Oh.
So I have all these trick tools and earphone systems.
Oh, really?
Remote mics,
Oh, wow.
and 10 GoPros on it.
Okay.
So,
Cannot
Jonathan,
find it.
can I bring you cars that have noises? Do you have a
God,
noise
no.
department?
What, do I look like I need more abuse?
Oh, well, this is what I want.
my
I need. We'll set up and I'll invest a specialized noise department.
Wait, I want to hear. We don't have time. I have to go. But GoPros and microphones in different
there's
areas,
this
and
killer
does it
thing
work?
called like the Sonic Ear. It's some cheesy tool I've had forever. It's phenomenal.
It works?
And
a little grease board, little like Pelican case.
Right.
I've got 6 mics you can deploy anywhere in the car. Then you write on the grease board what each mic, what location,
Yeah.
rear axle, front axle, and it's got a little switch. And then I'll put GoPros up corresponding with those, and it's killer. Although it's not working.
And
at the
you
moment. I
find
can't fix
most
this damn rattle.
And you find most of the rattles.
Oh, yeah.
By doing that. Yeah. Oh my God.
So you will do this.
I'll loan you guys the tool.
No.
you go. Don't say no to that. I need that right
I'm
now
not
because
doing.
I
No,
gotta
I
find this.
want to give him the car and let him use his tool.
No.
Come on, man.
He said that like Klaus Zellmer
Yeah.
from Porsche when I asked him for another GT2 RS allocation on stage in front of 400 people at the Peterson. He went, no! Anyway, we are out of time. Jonathan, a real treat to see you again and to have you here.
Thanks for having me here.
Nice to
Everybody,
meet
you got to go check out his website. Orders Watch. There are only a couple left. Zuckerman, you'll find where? At The Real Zuckerman. And what is the name of your firm?
Carpenter, Zuckerman, and Rowley, and I have to thank you. I got my first case that came in from a listener.
Unbelievable. Like
Yesterday.
you needed it, by the way.
Like I
Making
needed
money
it.
hand over
but
fist.
I couldn't believe it, so I was blown away.
But Zuckerman wins. And you can find me on at Spike First and everywhere pretty much. But I like Instagram the most, so find me there. I'll see you next week. We'll all see you next week on Spike's Car Radio.
Thanks for listening to Spike's Car Radio. Download new episodes every Wednesday on the Podcast One app or subscribe now at Apple Podcasts or PodcastOne.com.